Hi guys, how are you both? You all right?
Great, Rebecca. Yeah, great, great. Thank you.
Oh,
Great to be here.
yeah, it's lovely to see you both. So, and it's been a while since I saw you in real life because it's taken us a while to all to get together because we're all so busy doing the things that I think we're going to talk about this morning. So, what I wanted to do is approach the survey that we met discussing and flush out some of the things that are in there that I just found particularly interesting. And you guys had some really sort of interesting and sort of inspiring ideas around it. So, if I could start with you, Mark, there's been a real strategy shift and business leaders are sort of focusing now on profitability much more than growth. And I know from my own experience in business that people talk about their turnover but very rarely talk about their profit, which I always find quite an interesting thing, because it doesn't, if you're only making £1 profit, it's not a very big business. So what do you think this is going to mean for strategy going forward if people are starting to recognize this and are focusing much more on their profitability?
Yeah, sure. And I thanks, Rebecca. And I don't think it's a new one where you say that turnover is vanity and profit is sanity, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's great. I
and
love
I,
that.
right, and even that even since focusing much more on the survey and the results of it, it's something I find myself saying a lot more. But business owners are definitely, um, focusing more on profitability because I think growth has been, I won't say easy, but pretty simple in previous years, particularly in Western Europe and markets where there's been ongoing growth. Um, so businesses have grown a lot, but there's definitely, I can see a reset in clients where they're thinking about, well, we've got the growth, but how do we sustain it and how do we make it more profitable? And with full employment as we have in Ireland, how do we do more with less? So there's a much more of a focus on that in the future and what's coming, as I'm sure we'll talk about around AI and change in technology and change in world markets, etc. That with perhaps less resources in the business, how do we do more and how do we keep more profit and make sure that we're more profitable in doing that is a real focus and strategy.
Well, one of the other things that the survey identified, which kind of fits into this, is the sort of operations gap. And one of the statistics was that 79% say their operating models need more improvement. Now, I guess has a big impact on profitability as well, because if you're wasting money left, right, and centre on your processes, or you don't have processes, that's going to really kick into profitability. So, what do you, from your experience, see as being the biggest weaknesses holding companies back?
Yeah, it's a big part of it is a challenge for SMEs, right? Because if you're in a larger business and it's easier to change your operational model. Maybe you have global trends and global businesses and global results in order to differentiate yourself and to check where you are. Where with SMEs, that's much more difficult. So really, because it's such a lonely place, that they can find it difficult in order to know where their operational model is wrong and where they need to put their resources in to change it. So I think a lot of it comes back to not knowing what good looks like and how do you change that. And really, what it all falls really back to is where do you focus and having a strategy. And for SMEs and owner managed business, they don't really focus on that. A lot of it can be day to day and getting through the year and getting to the next thing and survival rather than thinking, well, of the three key areas of where, so I need to focus on my people, I need to focus on my markets, I need to focus on my customers and having a strategy built around that. And usually what comes from a good, simple strategy, that drives then the operational change.
I mean, being an SME owner myself, I have been in that firefighting phase.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah,
it's quite hard. It is hard to to look at your own business when you're there, and people are throwing
yeah.
things at you. So, what would be your advice to a business owner to sort of actually sit down and do that strategy? Where do they get the help from to do that?
So that's a good question because it is, and it's a real challenge for business both to invest in it and see the value in it, right? But really, it comes back to that trusted advisor piece, and usually it will come back to their accountant, um, who is, and as accountancy changes and professional services changes, where we're not now usually stuck in the numbers, getting to what the profit is or what the tax is, and it's much more stepping back and helping businesses in order to be improve their operations, improve in their sector, and have that knowledge from their business to improve. So usually the place to start is with their accountant or their advisor, and to take a step back and really to do that stargazing piece, so to see, well, where do you want your business to be, whether that in 3 years time and 5 years time, and to break that down into small pieces. And usually, when that's broken down into small pieces and set into a simple strategy, and you have somebody that you can help to a little bit as a mentor, really, in order to benchmark that off, you find that those small wins that you don't measure on your own, because in business we always focus on what's wrong and what do you need to improve rather than the wins that you have.
Oh,
So
yes.
if you take, oh yeah, I know that's a human thing, right? We'll always. So if you actually get to spend the time and to sit back and look at where those wins are, that really focuses on making those small changes, and all those small changes then add up.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
really good advice, actually. I mean, I find that I never look at the good stuff. I'm so bad
yeah.
at like always looking at all the things that I've got to do, and I don't look at the wins. And you know, I have a management accountant who's very helpful, and she sits down with me and goes, "Yes, but you've done this really well this year." And I go, "Really? Really? Have I? Show me the figures." It's so nice to
Yeah, yeah.
do that. It's so nice to do that.
Mm, mm. And of course the numbers are sorted, and the number it comes back to the numbers, but
Yeah,
really it's much more than that too, though,
yeah, right.
in order to change that one. So pragmatism, right? That's the number one word really in it.
Yeah, no, that's very
Mm,
true. Stefan,
mm,
we talked a bit, or Mark's mentioned people, and one of the things that really fascinated me in this survey was the fact that only 37% of people, of business leaders, felt they had engaged workforces. I mean, that seems so fundamental to a business that I was actually very shocked by that and wondered how that could get so low. So, what do you think's driving this, and how on earth do you go about fixing that as a business leader?
Yeah, I think that's a very good realization. If I look at it, I think there is a mismatch between work and purpose. So as long as you are working and you fulfill your basic needs, then that can be a drive. But we live now in a world where people have a lot of free time and a very good standard of living. So what you now see is that people don't do work for survival, but people want to do work for purpose. Definitely in a labor constrained market. And I remember a nice story of an American president that once went to NASA, and there was a guy sweeping the floor, and he asked politely to the guy, kind of, "What are you doing?" And instead of saying, "I'm swiping the floor," he said, "We are putting a man on the moon." So the man had a purpose. They were everyone in NASA was putting a man on the moon rather than just swiping a floor or kind of doing other stuff. So I think,
That's nice. I like that.
yeah, so something with
Mm.
yeah, helping people to understand what you're really doing, rather than just do work and get some money. A purpose helps enormously. I think the second thing is what you also see is that people grow into more senior roles, but typically are not, or there's a risk that they're not fully equipped to that. So the best specialist becomes manager, and then has to lead a team, but he has never been skilled to lead a team, etc. So I think there's in many organizations, if you also look at other surveys, there's always a lot of complaint about the middle managers being overloaded and undertrained in people management. So I think those are two kind of could be two trends behind this, driving this.
Yeah, I'm interested in you saying about the skills and people not have, the change in the skills that people need. I mean, but even for myself, if I look back over my career, when I started and I was growing up in marketing, I was working in print. and bits of paper. I mean, that's all I did. And then our kids came back and suddenly it was all digital. And now I feel like a tech person because all I do is tech day in, day out. I never intended my career to be that. And yet that's what it is basically now 24/7. So I can see there's a lot of other people out there with those sorts of problems. And the survey actually showed that 25% of work skills have changed, and predicted by 2030 that 65% would be the figure. So how on earth do you keep up with this? I mean, how do you keep your staff skilled when the change is so phenomenal? And actually, we all know that people hate change. People don't like change. So
No, that's true.
come on, solve the world for me, Stefan, because I don't know quite how we go about this.
I don't think there's a simple solution to that, but indeed the world is changing more rapidly than in the past. So skills get obsolete quicker than in the past. I still remember, well, actually, I was celebrating some of my colleagues that have been in the firm for 40 years. Imagine 40 years at the same employer doing the same thing.
I would do my head in.
No one will do that anymore in the future. So, so indeed, it is a problem, coupled with indeed people not, having a hard time to kind of change. I think what does help is kind of this notion of continuous learning, continuous development, finding new ways to train people, finding new ways to learn on the job. Again, like schools and universities give a good basis, kind of skill set, but that ends rapidly. So I think continuous learning and allowing people to develop different skills, etc., helps enormously. Also, there are some interesting pilots with companies that force people to change roles every 2 years, not because they're not good at it, but just as a notion of building more skills so that they can get a broader skill set so they can be employed longer. So think a bit about horizontal mobility in an organization as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm just going to write that one down actually for my team. I like that. I think that's a great idea. But I mean, also investing in people was something that came out of the survey, including higher pay in the most profitable companies. Going back to what Mark was talking about profit at the start, the most profitable companies are investing more in people and paying more. So why does that work?
So there's always a bit of the correlation versus cause.
So your costs go up, your profit goes up.
Yeah, exactly. So do you pay more because your profitability increased, or is it because you paid more, the profitability increased? So always a bit of a debate on kind of what's the first, the chicken or the egg. But I do think people are motivated by success. So and success so profitability is success of the company, and higher pay is success of yourself. So the correlation is clear. But I think it's more than just pay. It's more about the entire ecosystem. The reward someone gets. Is it pay? Is it also faster growth than in another company? Investment in skills, well-being, etc., will also help. Not only kind of the more financial side of things. Think about also. So there's also an interesting correlation in the Corona crisis, like 4 or 5 years ago. So companies that still invested in their workforce, they recover faster from a crisis. So it's so very interesting to see that, for instance, in our industry, there were big accountancy firms that laid off many people in the Corona because they thought they would not have work for it. Whereas others actually kept the workforce, invested in, etc., and they are kind of now outpacing their competitors. So coming back to the chicken and egg, this could be a proof point that indeed taking good care of your workforce will ultimately lead to more profitability.
You've both mentioned AI, and just coming back to sort of how it's going to affect the workforce. Mark, I mean, it said in the survey that 69% of the business leaders spoken to said that AI was the most important technology for the next 5 years. So how do you actually use it to drive profitability rather than it just being a nice little extra on the side. Do you know what I mean? It's actually, how do you put it in the center rather than it just be, oh, we can use AI now to, talk to us. As we were saying before, as a sort of replacements for our other halves, to solve problems. So
I know.
To actually make the business sit around it.
Yeah, and it's exactly, and that's what I hear from talking to clients. So everybody seems to be on this drive to implement AI and use AI and put it into their business and roll it out and develop it. But it's a little bit, there's a risk of building it on quicksand, right? Because without having a reason for actually doing it and what you're actually going to do and what it's actually going to help within the business, it's just another software tool, or perhaps that you're paying for something that won't actually be used. And there's sort of the two strands to it, really, and really where I'm seeing that investment is going into is around process automation. So in order to, what can we do better? And for businesses who are really doing that correctly, they're going back to basics, because they have to map out the processes that they're doing, and they need to involve the whole team and involve the whole business, and actually sit back and say, well, how are we actually doing it at the moment to be able to improve? So the thinking about and implementing AI properly is bringing much more benefits than what just the time saving and what the AI can bring, because you actually have to discuss and map out the way that you're actually managing your business in order to get the benefits out of AI. But a big areas where I'm seeing that it's being implemented, apart from our own business and across how it's changing audit and accounting, which is really exciting, and it's really exciting for our new graduates and our new people joining the business, where it's totally going to change how accounting works in the future, because all of the basic stuff from accounting and communicating with clients to ask them for information and checking what's coming in and testing that and pulling together lead schedules in Excel and all of that stuff is all gone or will be gone. So it's getting much more into the advisory piece. But so across that, and also across CRM and customer engagement, which I'm sure you're seeing from a marketing perspective as well, that the AI and how that, like, really data is the new currency, right? So if you get the data right and use it right, that's where AI can really bring benefit, and across HR systems and marketing, HR, business development, and process automation is really where I'm seeing that the pace is really quickening up, and there's pilots being run everywhere, and Microsoft Copilot now has been rolled out much more widely than where it was even 6 months ago. So it's around having that strategy around it again, and around implementing it properly, and about having the proper champions in the business to do it, or else it'll just end up dispersed around the place without actually bringing profitability and bringing better business processes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stefaan, going back to your people comments, so we've got this AI coming in, taking over these operations. Do you see it as something that is going to replace people, or is it going to enhance people? And how do you get the balance right in a business?
I think it's actually both will be true. So yes, there will be roles, tasks, and maybe entire jobs being replaced by AI, but I think more often it will be enhanced. So individuals will be better equipped to do tasks, etc. So it's not one of the two. I think it's actually both. That actually means that people, we also need to redefine kind of task and success. So if you define your individual success or success of a department by producing X amount of annual reports, that's then the wrong success factor. If you say, no, we are helping that many customers on their broad company with new ideas, new value creators, etc., then so you redefine the task. People can still make an annual report, and it can be done maybe automated, but they still can use the time that they spent on producing an annual report on literally thinking out how can we enhance the business. So I think it's redefining what the task is will help also people accept all the changes. And it's also once you start seeing that and you're actually creating value for clients, colleagues, etc., then it's a great thing. If you purely see it as, oh, I had a task and this task I have to do my entire life, then it's a threat. So I think redefining what success is and helping and also helping people to change, kind of build their skills to adopt AI, then it will be fantastic.
Yeah, and with one of the things about adopting all this new technology is the increase in risk. And as an employer, I'm very aware of that. And I mean, on the survey, it said that business risk concerns are up 58% since 2019. And I guess most of that is AI and the access to data and all the changes there's been. And there's been a lot more legislation in Europe as well that's come in more recently. So how do you balance growth, a sort of investment in growth with this protection, and also the risks of sort of there's been so many cyber attacks and so on. How do you get that right? Because I'm finding that I'm swinging from worrying about my insurance to sort of wanting to invest in different areas and still having to spend a lot of time looking at what the risks are going to be in that area before moving forward.
It's the investment is going to have to continue to be hand in hand, because there's no doubt that business risk is increasing probably quicker than the pace of change of the advantages that AI can even bring. Like part of our business, we have a cybersecurity business within HLB Ireland. So we're at the coalface of this. So, and it's where even 3 or 4 years ago, it would have seen that cyber risk really was for large entities, and that's where the threat was. But it's much, much more in SMEs, and much, much more in much smaller businesses than we would ever think there's cyber attacks and ransomware attacks, because again, a lot of the tools that are being used by the attackers are using AI to do it. So it's much more prolific. So the fact of it is that if you don't have the proper security measures in place first, you're placing your whole business at much more risk. So really, you can't, as I say, you can't put the cart before the horse, right? So you need to, from that cyber, I would see as a really principal risk in business, and the security around the data and the security around how your people can operate with that data and the access that they have. And as people are, like a lot of businesses, even small businesses, have people working from right around the world. Mm-hmm. So it's from where, yeah, and as do we. So it's you need to make sure you have that security operations center in place, and you need to make sure that you have the systems and structures in place that maybe a much larger business would have in order to protect it. And there's really no getting away from that. And I think as every small business owner, it's probably one of the things that if you wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about is that cyber risk. The last thing anyone wants is that black screen that you've been ransomware. So it's to get that advice and to get that in place first. Mark. Exactly. It is.
That's why I look like this,
Exactly, and it's real and it happens, and but so there's the cyber risk side of it, but there's also the side that really you don't want the intern seeing what the partner's salaries is and the managing director's salary is, right? So
I've seen that happen once back in the day.
Yeah. And
I've never seen a piece of paper go round so quickly, actually.
Yeah, and as you know, in the tech world, that paper moves much quicker, right?
Yes, so it's absolutely. Yeah.
So again, whether it's whatever tools that are being released, whether it's Copilot or whatever, that it's made sure that that the skill sets are there, that it's released in the right manner and used in the right manner. So yeah, that cyber risk will stay at the top of whether it's the formal or the informal risk register. I think into the future we have it.
I think the other problem with it as well, with the security and sort of the risk factors, is doing innovation. So my partner has a tech company, and he's got like 100 patents for various things in sort of factory environment, and he's very concerned about AI and their cyber security around that. So he's done well with it because he's been doing it for a long time. But in that survey, it said that only 35% would say their innovation was successful, and 65% said that they were lacking on that front. So what do you think is separating the winners from the strugglers in the innovation area?
I think the key piece is that for businesses to create the space where new ideas are welcome, right? Because I think we don't like change, right? People we just generally don't like change. So people don't put their head up in order to introduce change and to innovate unless that's welcome. So it's to create that space. And it's more to create that space right across the business. So really, for people, can't be afraid to put forward ideas and can't be afraid to fail. So it's creating that environment where, and that's why successful businesses are better at it, because they really create that space and everybody feels that they have that purpose and have that reason for being there. And a bit like as Stefan said about the guy in NASA who was, he's launching to the moon while sweeping the floor, right? So his new job at the moment, he'll no longer be sweeping the floor, right? Because that process has been automated. So it's giving him the space in order to see where he can deliver, where the next stage of innovation is, of the ideas, in order to bring that on. So larger companies do that better because they usually have better processes to be able to facilitate more people on the team to innovate. And it's really about putting a project plan around it, putting a budget around it, having actions around it, and celebrating where the wins come from innovation. And of course, innovation is much wider than just tech, right? It's how we do things better, no matter what that is. So it's much. You don't have to be a tech expert to be able to innovate.
I'm still trying to work out how to get my coffee quicker, but
yeah, exactly. Exactly, and it's to try and recognize in a business as well the different type of innovators that there are, because I could be, the best in the world at coming up with wonderful ideas, but have no idea how to implement them. So it's really to make sure that you're giving everyone the space in order to play their part in it, in making a business better.
No, that's really helpful. So Stefan, we've got a lot of stuff there to do. It sort of makes you want to go and curl up in a corner and cry as a business owner. There's so much to do. So where do you start with all this? You've got operations, people, innovation, all these things that are becoming faster and faster for every business owner, no matter what size, even small companies like my own. So where do we begin? Where do you start?
Well, I would jokingly say, first call your trusted advisor from the accountancy firm, your accountant, to help you.
Why do you think I'm doing this podcast?
Do a bit of self-promotion, but then no, but seriously, besides that, which is always a good thing to do and a smart thing to do, is a bit like what Mark already mentioned. Is start with an idea, translate it into a good strategy, and then an operations plan. Set the governance, put a governance in place, whether it's a team or a business line or something else. Mark already mentioned celebrate successes. That's very important. I think I would like to add to those, review the progress. So literally see if what you plan to do also is actually if you also achieve what you were planning to do, and if not, you can always change the plan. And because a lot of ideas and assumptions and hypotheses that you had that you would come across, and the risk you identified up front with mitigating actions. Ultimately, there are other risks you never thought about. There are other things can happen. So I think always kind of review kind of what did you want to achieve, and then why is it not happening. Change the plan is always good. And I think the last one that I would like to add, have patience. Change and innovation, it takes a long time. It looks like things are going very fast with Copilot and all those things, but again, the investments in these technologies have been kind of for many years. We only see success now that because ChatGPT was launched and all of a sudden it's the biggest technology and it's great and fantastic. But there have been people working very hard on the algorithms, etc. And it's the same with your own innovation. It takes time. So don't get triggered by kind of what we see in the outside world that innovation comes. You can do it within a week. Which is, it's not entirely true. It takes hard work and patience. So acknowledge it as well. It's not like a magic wand that all of a sudden your ideas into is reality. So
I'm so disappointed. I was hoping to get the magic wand. I mean, really. So just as a last tip then, what would be your top tip, Mark, for a business? Just one thing to do straight away.
Oh, have confidence in your purpose. So really believe in what you're doing, and approach it in a fearless way. But Stefan mentioned patience, which is not something that we're good at as business owners, but is really important. But I'd say have confidence in your ability and the opportunity in order to grow a profitable business.
And Stefan, the one thing that's...
I think as a business owner, it's good to once in a while take a step back, go to the beach, sit there for 8 hours and think. Not put off your phone and really think, and not watch the sea, only what you see, but also kind of and challenge yourself in those moments.
No, that's very good advice. I always come back with something better when I've had some fun. Actually, it makes a big difference. That's brilliant, guys. Honestly, that's been so interesting. I'm sure everybody's who's listened to this will really have taken a lot away from it. So thank you so much. It's been great to see you both, and really come back again. I'd love to do another one with you in time. That'd be super.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much. Thank you.